Maybe he and his comrades should ask a simple question. Why do every neighboring country wants to join NATO? And the answer is very simple, because nobody trusts you in Moscow.
Are you concerned that this move by Finland and Sweden could provoke further attacks by Russia, perhaps some form of hybrid war, some form of cyber attacks? But you're pretty much right there on the front line.
Yes, since we are on the front line, this is nothing new for us. We are under the Russian hybrid attacks, including cyber or strategic communication attacks already since 2007. Right, so it's for 15 years going on like this. But you see, I think I would not like to agree also on a Russian dictionary and lexicon about NATO expansion, because this is not a question about expansion of some international organization. This is simply about self-defense of a country which feels threatened by its neighbor. And I think before Russians and Putin is using the words about some kind of NATO expansion, maybe he and his comrades should ask a simple question. Why do every neighboring country wants to join NATO? And the answer is very simple, because nobody trusts you in Moscow. So that's the answer. So from that perspective, yes, they might try to exaggerate something. They might try, of course, to a little bit tense situation. But at the end, they can't do much about this free choice of free nation.
Well, you say they can't do much. They've proved what they're capable of doing by their invasion of Ukraine. I mean, and we've even heard threats of a possible nuclear strike. Surely there is quite a bit that Russia could do. Are you not concerned about that?
Well, we always should be concerned about such threats, but on the other hand, it has no right for us to give in to such Russian type of threats, because, you see, he's now playing the Western public opinion. And by telling that he has a nuclear threat or he can do something else, it's simply to make democratic publics and democratic societies to object to their government, and basically trying to blackmail us. And we cannot simply give in to such bullying. And if we basically face, for instance, a Russian threat or argument that, look, if you will not do like we like you to do, we might use a nuclear bomb, then Russians should be reminded that they are not the only country which is a nuclear, and that the West has not only the right, but also has the capabilities to protect itself. So from that perspective, I'm not afraid of Moscow. I am afraid of the Western weakness. So we are not afraid here from the Russian strengths, but from the Western weakness to stand by their values and by their systems.
So what you're saying is that NATO should be prepared, if necessary, to confront Russia directly?
Well, if Russians will attack us, we would have to confront directly. NATO never offended Russia. NATO never wanted to enter Russian territory. We must remember and very clearly state also for ourselves that invader, aggressor, and bully, and raper, and cheater is Russia, and not the West, and not the NATO. That's a very simple answer. We must here clearly show who is right and who is wrong.
You said earlier that the decisions by Finland and Sweden to join NATO would strengthen the alliance, but it does also present NATO with a new, more than 800-mile long border to defend. I mean, that is a new commitment for NATO as well, isn't it? And doesn't that make it even more likely that NATO will be drawn into some sort of confrontation with Russia?
Well, I think we simply should not agree to the Russian definition how they describe the world, which means NATO expansion, as I mentioned before, or attempts to bring them into the war. You see, you never can deal with a bully like Russia by trying it simply appease. And the greatest mistake of the Western nations, at least some of them, in the latest decades was that they tried to appease Russia, just like at the beginning in 1930s, somebody tried to appease Hitler. We know where did it bring the world. As far as the length of the border, yes, there will be a longer border between European and NATO member countries with Russia, but at the same time, we must remember that during the Cold War, that border was much, much longer because all the Eastern Alliance, which was under the occupation and domination of Soviet and Russian forces, had much larger border with the West. And at that time, there was no such threat of direct confrontation because both sides knew that if they cross this line, there could be the war. At this moment, Russia is simply challenging every existing border, and Russia must be put in the place by telling, look, dear Putin, we will not let you to cross the lines which are we responsible for, which are our countries and our member countries.